Hello everyone, it's Denise from Dobby Books. Welcome back. So yesterday I went over the book haul that I got, the combination books that I got, and in the end I ended up forgetting 3 books that are not part of a combination, but I did want to cover them with you. I'm going to go over what I've been reading for the week. That's the purpose of this particular video, but let me quickly show you those 3 other books in my book haul that I forgot to show you yesterday. The first one is Across So Many Seas by Ruth Behar. This is a Newbery honor book, so yay, I get to add it to my collection. And this is, it says on the back, spanning over 500 years, Buddha Belpré Award winner Ruth Behar's sweeping saga features 4 girls from different generations of a Jewish family. And the countries that this takes place in, these are families that are fleeing some sort of persecution, some sort of totalitarian government. They're fleeing to find freedom and safety. And the countries that these incidences take place in are Spain in 1492, Turkey in 1923, Cuba in 1961, and Miami in 2003. So this is going to be a great read. Also, I added another book to my Shakespeare library, a Folger Shakespeare library edition of Henry IV, Part 1. This was hard to find. I knew I wanted to get Henry IV. I'd gotten Julius Caesar, and next one's Henry IV. But everywhere I went, it was only Henry IV, Part 2, Part 2, Part 2, and Part 2. It's just, But this one day when I was having this very productive day, finding all my collections, I found Part 1 for Henry IV, so I grabbed it. And that's my Shakespeare collection is right behind me. You can see my other Folger editions, and this is going to be added to it. It'll be lovely, and I'll have to move out these little 3 books. Those are actually Jane Austen books. I'll have to relocate those to another position, but yay, I have another book for my Shakespeare collection. And then the last one is Haunted Southern California. I don't know if I've ever shared this with you guys, but for my husband and myself, both of our birthdays and our wedding anniversary happen in October. So we always try to go away once a year for a weekend. And we try to stay, per my request, in a haunted hotel. Because I'm just stupid like that. I love to scare the heck out of myself in a haunted place somehow. Nothing crazy like those ghost hunter people, those paranormal investigators. No, thank you. But just some sort of history, some sort of paranormal history behind it. To me, it just adds something to that weekend getaway. And if something happens, which, if I recall, in one hotel we stayed in, something happened when we were there for our honeymoon, but we weren't staying at the hotel, we were touring it. And I took a picture, and an image came up that was nobody that was there, and we couldn't recreate it. So it was very interesting. In the second incident, we were staying at, not the Coronado, which also has its history of hauntings. I think it was at the Grand Hotel in what they call the Lamplight District. I could have gotten that wrong. The Lamplight District in the city of San Diego. And they had relocated a hotel to that location, connected it to another hotel, and it became one hotel. Well, there's a history that in the hotel, in the part of the hotel that we stayed at, and I did have 2 incidences happen there, which were very interesting. See, it adds something to an otherwise very regular getaway. So I want to look into this. There's one, let me see. There's, Disneyland has hauntings. How many people knew that? There is, I know I saw something here. Camarillo State Mental Hospital has a history of hauntings. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, if I ever shared this, but my college campus is the old Camarillo State Mental Hospital. It closed down, I believe, somewhere in 1990. either the early or the mid 1990s. It closed for good. And it sort of stood there dormant for something like 10 years before the state of California bought it and what's the word, they sort of recycled the use of this unused land and buildings, decided to make it a 4-year university because there was this space. There was, a university over in the LA area, not the city, but the LA area, northern LA area, and then there wasn't another one in the northern part until way up in Santa Barbara. So there was this huge gap, and this was right in the middle. So they decided to turn the old state mental hospital into a 4-year university, and that is the very university that I attended and graduated from in May. And I was so itching. Whenever I had the chance, I would look in the empty buildings. You couldn't really enter them, but I could look through the windows and whatnot. And it's just interesting. Some of the older parts of campus, they had not really changed a lot. They were safe to walk in, essentially. They would close off the areas that weren't. And in some of those areas, you could still see the old murals on the walls that were painted for the children's play area. In another part, they had old beds that were leaned up against the wall with the mattresses on one side. So you could see where parts of that were the old building occupants and what went on. And I was intrigued by that. And I read up on where sightings were normally seen, and it just happened to be one area where I normally parked in, which was the preferred parking area for me, just location-wise, to get to my classes. Across the walkway from that was a very common sighting of an elderly gentleman who would walk past that way. Very interesting. But yeah, so my college is famous because it's haunted, and how perfect, right? Here I am, a woman who loves paranormal stuff, graduating from a university that has paranormal sightings. Very exciting. And I'm trying to find, there was one more place. Well, there's Disneyland, but I didn't know. San Juan Capistrano. The Whaley House. That's in Old Town San Diego. I've had a tour of that place. And that's just down the street from the haunted hotel that my husband stayed on during one of our anniversaries and had that first experience during our honeymoon when we were taking a tour. So that's exciting. Those are the 3 books that I got for the book haul. The last 3 that I forgot to mention yesterday. Let me tell you what I've been reading, and I left it in the other room. Hold on. Okay. So I finished the first book of Dust, entitled La Belle Sauvage. And in this one, Malcolm is a new character. Lyra, who's the original character from the first trilogy, The Golden Compass. In The Golden Compass, she's just this wild child, 10, 11 years old. But in La Belle Sauvage, she's a baby, so it's a prequel to the original trilogy. And a young boy who's about 12 finds himself being her protector and saving her from harm. And in the adventures that he experiences in this book, one of his co-workers, his parents own a pub, a tavern. And one of the workers there, her name is Alice, and she's this grouchy, mouthy 16-year-old. And Malcolm and Alice avoid each other like the plague. They don't like each other. Well, by the end of the book, they're very, very good friends because they were both on this very dangerous and scary and unforgettable experience together trying to save Lyra from harm. Now, in the second book of this trilogy, The Secret Commonwealth, we are now past what happened in the very first book, The Golden Compass. Lyra has already come back from her adventures in that first trilogy, and the 2 young kids who had protected her when she was a baby now are older. So Malcolm is now a professor at the Jordan College where she grew up. The woman who looked after her, I wrote her name down, is known as Mrs. Lonsdale. So shortly after Alice and Malcolm ended their adventure from protecting Lyra, at some point Alice married, but her husband died young. She never had children, but she stayed on at Jordan College because when Lord Asriel gave the master of Jordan College his daughter, Lyra, to protect her, he also entrusted the master with Malcolm and Alice. So Malcolm, who otherwise would not have had the opportunity to go to college, did because the master paid for his way to college. Now he's a professor at Jordan College. And Alice, who became known as Mrs. Lonsdale, was entrusted with taking care of Lyra. So you see how everything sort of comes to it's updated, everything gets connected, and I love that part. So now Lyra is 20 years old, and Hannah Ralph, who is the professor that I told you about in this book, she was also mentioned in the very first book in the Golden Compass, and here we get to know her as a young professor and how Professor Ralph sort of initiates Malcolm into the underground organization that is working against what the magisterium is trying to do. Now, Hannah Ralph in this book, of course, is older. She is the professor for Lyra now, the college student. So we have these four people. We have Lyra and Malcolm, Mrs. Lonsdale, who is Alice, and Professor Ralph, or Dame Hannah Ralph, as she's known, coming together once again because Lyra's life is in danger again. And this is the point where I am at. I'm not sure yet what it is they want with Lyra. We know it's the magisterium again. They've already established the Republic of Heaven. So what is it that the magisterium is going to do now? Lyra has been told what happened to her as a baby and the role that Malcolm played in her life, Professor Paulsen, as she knows him as, the role that Alice played in that, Mrs. Lonsdale, and to also find out that Professor Ralph, Hannah Ralph, also knew Lyra as a baby and was aware of all this. So at this point, Lyra's head is spinning. She's all this information, and she's kind of resentful that they didn't tell her, but they told her. Finding that right time to tell her was hard to determine, but now they're forced to because they've just become aware that she's in danger. And also, Lyra has found out from the new master of the college, because the other one had passed away, the new one has come in, and he's not even a scholar, he's a businessman. So you can imagine the difference in the way that they are running the university. And what he's just informed Lyra, one or two nights before the current place that I'm at in this book, is that she can no longer live there. She has one more year. There's no more money to finance her education, but he'll help her for the next year. She's been moved to a windowless room above the kitchen. Just very hurtful, humiliating things to her. And this is why the group finally decided to tell her, because they knew that this organization was now making its move on Lyra. So, and there's another incident that happened here that makes it even more exciting. And another thing that's very interesting is that Lyra and Pantalaimon, her demon, they're able to separate. Unlike everybody else in their demon, they can only be physically so far apart. But because of what Lyra went through in the first trilogy, she and Pantalaimon can be miles apart, and they're still fine. Well, Pantalaimon one night, after Lyra had gone to sleep, witnessed a murder. So there's another twist being thrown into this story. And I have to tell you, even though I have just started this second book in the trilogy, My goal was to finish it by September or early October, in time for the third book in the trilogy, which is going to be released next month in October. But at the rate I'm going, I sort of chuckle to myself, because me, the slow reader, has to slow down, because you know how that happens when you finish one story in a series or in a trilogy, and it's a little while before you get into the next book. You kind of forget a few details, and you have to go back and kind of remind yourself. That's what I'm worried about. If I finish this book too soon, knowing my memory, I'll forget too many things as we go along. But that's encouraging. I'm actually ahead of schedule on that. And because I've been so engrossed in this series, I have not read anything else. It's just been so consuming. It's all consuming for me. I don't want to read anything else right now. Isn't that great that a book can do that for us? And it's something we look forward to it when we get home, or when we finish whatever it is we have to do during the day. I think that's fantastic. So that's what I've been reading, everybody. And now we're caught up. I want you all to enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks for hanging out with me. I love you all. I will see you in just a few days. Bye-bye.